Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Simplify Operations, Gain Insight, and Enhance Troubleshooting of Application Delivery Infrastructure in the Hybrid Multi-Cloud World. My name is Jeremy Schwartz, and I will be your host for today's presentation. Our featured speaker today is Jason Poole, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Citrix Networking. Before we get started, let me cover a couple of housekeeping details. We will have a dedicated question and answer session at the end of today's presentation and invite you to submit your questions at any time during the presentation using the Ask a Question window in the webinar interface. Also, this event is being recorded, and a link to the on-demand version will be sent to everyone in a follow-up email. With that, I will now hand it over to Jason to start the presentation. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, and welcome to this presentation on Citrix Application Delivery Management. There is a need to update and unify the way applications are delivered today to meet the demands placed on them by the business. There's a clear need to simplify operations, collect actionable insight, and improve troubleshooting for all applications. I want to spend a little time showing you why this is important, how Citrix ADM brings this all together, and the benefits it can bring to you, your IT strategy, and your business. So let's start with applications, a great place to start. Applications are crucial to the modern business. Without them, many businesses would likely collapse. Everything from internal processes to customer interactions is governed by applications. How they're used may vary, but businesses are dependent on them. We effectively live in an application economy, and the effective use of applications is synonymous with business growth and productivity. In many instances, the user or the customer experience equates to the application experience. And if applications go down, this equals poor experience, but also more than that, it can lead to lost productivity of your users because they're unable to do their job, or potentially worse, lost revenue because you cannot transact. And that could be your website or the in-store EPS system, for example. And more than this, it may have a knock-on effect to your brand and your reputation, which may lead to lost customers who may never come back. And as applications become more important, they govern the way in which business responds to change. As the business expands into new areas, there might be a need for new services, which might mean new applications. As demand for existing services increases, so the application that handles that must increase capacity to cope. Being agile means delivering these apps quickly or reacting to change rapidly. And this requires visibility and insight into the applications and their delivery. This is, in effect, what keeps a business ahead of its competitors and in tune with its customers and users. To do this requires a unified approach to application delivery. Today, the application landscape and its respective delivery mechanisms is fragmented. Indeed, configuring the application delivery controllers, or ADCs, that will control the delivery is a manual, time-consuming, and frequently error-prone process. The applications are distributed across different environments: on-premises data centers, private clouds, co-location sites, public cloud infrastructure, for example. And while this may bring many advantages, it creates challenges for admins whose job it is to ensure that the applications are put in front of the people that need them when they need them. The different environments create silos that have different ways to do things. It can be difficult to define and enforce security policies, for example, across so many different environments, especially when there is a lack of clear visibility into how the application is being delivered. Further, all of these different environments have their own set of tools which create fragmented troubleshooting. What is needed is a consistent approach across the entire hybrid multi-cloud, an approach to management that enables consistent, automated ADC configuration, a capability that allows consistent security policies to be defined enterprise-wide and easily tracked and enforced. There needs to be a consolidated, holistic visibility over all the applications, regardless of type, where it's deployed, and what is fronting it. This would then provide faster, intuitive, proactive troubleshooting from a single place that will allow the business to respond quickly to change and innovate more rapidly. And this is exactly what Citrix Application Delivery Management does. It brings together the important aspects of application delivery to provide control for the business. It transforms configuration and monitoring of application delivery through automation. ADM also collects telemetry data about your ADCs as well as the applications that they front across your entire hybrid multi-cloud. It processes the data and gives valuable insight into the performance of your applications as well as the status of your delivery infrastructure and the security systems, all from a single place. And because ADM is tracking all this data, it makes it easier to troubleshoot more quickly. ADM has intuitive, interactive dashboards that highlight issues proactively and enable you to drill down with a few clicks to isolate root causes and take remedial action. And it does this across all your application types, legacy applications, web apps, and more modern microservices-based apps as well. ADM allows you to control any ADC form factor in the same way across any deployment scenario. Whether you're deploying hardware on-prem or virtual machines in the cloud, or even containerized ADCs in a cloud-native environment, ADM will give you the configuration and visibility you require across all your environments in a consistent manner. So, wherever and however you choose to deploy your apps, ADM offers a comprehensive single pane of glass for configuration, troubleshooting, and analytics. So let's take a look at how ADM can help improve your configuration through automation. Now, we said adapting to change is vital to the modern business. This means deploying new applications when required or scaling existing ones with demand. Previously, configuration has been a manual process that's time-consuming and error-prone, as we've said. It's been fraught with uncertainty. Has the config saved? Is it backwardly compatible? Will it survive an upgrade? Well, Citrix ADM brings clarity, control, and automation to the process of application delivery, configuration, and monitoring. ADM simplifies the process from the start with the ability to use logical entities in your configuration, push them from a central location. This helps reduce the time it takes as well as the errors that may occur when configuring your ADCs. It also makes it easy to migrate your applications and configs to new environments more easily. ADM helps you to respond to changes by including the ability to scale your ADC estate as demand changes without manual intervention. This is particularly useful in public cloud environments. Lastly, ADM also provides clear, intuitive information about the status of your ADC instances wherever they are, so that you can manage them more easily, as well as ensure that your defined policies are adhered to. Now, one of the biggest problems with configuring your ADCs is the fact that today it's been that manual process and it's handled in isolation. ADM makes this much simpler. As I said, you can create these logical config jobs and then push them to your ADCs across your entire hybrid multi-cloud environment. And this automation ensures that your changes are committed successfully. You can have the confidence that your config is saved, as well as being backed up and easily restored in the event that you need to. Sometimes applications start to perform erratically with no known cause, and many times experience tells us this is because an ADC configuration has been changed by mistake. This config drift, as we call it, is responsible for a lot of wasted troubleshooting hours. ADM will automatically monitor your configurations and will let you know if they change. This makes it easy to see when a problem might be related to config drift. A third area that's very helpful to many of our customers is config advice. Once corporate policies have been set, you can set ADM to check your configurations to ensure they comply with the templates you define. You can check for missing security settings, for example, or check that your SSL settings are in scope and that no incorrect ciphers have been selected. Config audit will report back when there are differences between what the config should be and what it actually is. Now, even with config jobs and audit tools, configuring ADCs for modern applications is becoming increasingly challenging. Modern applications have a lot more moving parts than they used to. And this is especially true of cloud-native applications with microservices-based architectures. Application components are deployed, for example, in different environments to benefit from the preferred services. But this rise in the agile approach to application development is leading to more and more changes in the configuration of your ADCs, which needs to be tracked. Further, application owners tend to become more involved in the process of delivery, and getting the IT ops team and the application owners to communicate can be challenging. There's frequently a language barrier. They are effectively, though, approaching things from different perspectives. So how do you meet the demands of the business to reduce the configuration time and minimize errors while keeping a consistent approach across multiple environments, as well as meeting the compliance by keeping track of all the different configurations that you create? These problems are very real and they demand answers. And Citrix has introduced style books to solve these exact issues. Style books are application configuration blueprints. A style book is a template that you can use to create and manage ADC configurations. They can be used to configure specific ADC features across all of your devices, or you can use style books to create configuration for an entire enterprise application deployment. Style books are composable. That is, you can break up a config into smaller steps, then piece them together, and you can reuse style books in other style books, which allows you to establish a library of functionality to be used when required to build these configurations for what are more complex applications. Style books are application-centric. You define the config for an entire application, and you abstract out parameters as variables in that config. This means that when you go to deploy an application, ADM will work out what it needs to ask you and will prompt you for the variables so that it's easier to deploy applications across multiple or hybrid cloud environments. Style books are automatically tracked and versioned, so you'll be able to always know that you're working from the most up-to-date configurations. Style books are written in YAML and designed to be human readable, so there's no programming involved at all, so you can overcome that language barrier. Ultimately, style books are a great way to help you reduce errors and, through automation, reduce configuration time, maybe down to minutes. But the biggest advantage of style books, in my opinion, is that they enable portability. Application migration is key for customers to be successful in the cloud journey. And the power of style books is that it allows you to migrate your new and your legacy apps much more easily. Because you abstract out all the variables, the ADC configuration is completely portable across environments, on-prem to cloud, or even between clouds. It enables portability for the multi-cloud environment totally. And this future-proofs the deployment, maintenance, and operations for the app as you go forward. As your deployment scenarios change, or you migrate between clouds, so your applications are easy to move, and you can benefit from the advantages of deploying things in new environments. Once you get your applications to the cloud, you want to make sure that you have the right resources deployed. Citrix ADM enables you to set up auto-scaling for your ADCs, so that as demand for your application or services change, ADM detects it. It calculates how many new ADC instances are required and where. It then triggers commands to provision new ADC instances. It licenses them and configures them automatically. This zero-touch capability ensures that you always have resources to cope with increased load. Similarly, when demand decreases, ADM will remove ADC instances and make the necessary adjustments. This helps you control costs by ensuring that you only ever have the exact right amount of resources up and running to meet the demand that you have. And in the cloud environment, where you only pay for what's running, that can help you better manage your costs. And when all your applications are deployed, you need to monitor your application delivery infrastructure. And this has been challenging in the past, looking at each individual instance, fishing through logs and determining its status. That was all very time-consuming. With Citrix ADM, you're able to see all your ADC instances across your entire hybrid multi-cloud in a single place. The instance dashboard saves you time as you can quickly see how many ADCs you have running, their form factors, the versions they're running, and even where they're deployed on a map. You can quickly tell if any of your ADCs are unexpectedly unreachable. You can check their configuration status, and any critical errors that occur are highlighted, and you can drill down on these problems for more details to get to the causes. Of course, control of licensing on your ADC is important. With ADM and Citrix Pool Capacity, you're able to ensure that you don't overcommit resources. You can visualize how much total capacity you have available, how much is used, how much remains. You see at a glance the different license additions available to you and when they expire. Most importantly, you can control ADC licensing from the ADM console. You can flexibly allocate ADC capacity and functionality wherever you need it across your entire hybrid multi-cloud environment. This puts you in control of how your application is delivered, from where, and when. So bringing and having all this information in one place helps you make forward-looking plans about what licenses you might need for the future and take better control of your operating expenditure. Now, one of the most important factors of application delivery is security. Controlling how users access your applications is crucial to protecting your applications and data. The first step on the road to protection for so many of our customers is proper policing of their SSL strategy. With ADM, you can define an enterprise-wide SSL policy with a click of a few buttons. Define the algorithms, the key strengths, the protocols, the certificate authorities, etc., that your business finds acceptable. Then let ADM monitor all of the SSL activity and spot violations of the policy. You track the protocols being used, which ciphers are in use, and track your certificate expiration status. And when issues are raised, you can drill down to troubleshoot SSL issues from the dashboard and even install new certificates to your ADCs at the click of a button. This means that you don't have to go to each individual device and manually upload new certificates. The SSL dashboard is very popular with customers because it allows them to track and enforce compliance with corporate security standards from a single place, which gives them more confidence that their security posture is correct, and it saves them an awful amount of time. Now, configuration and monitoring is great in and of itself, but ADCs see a lot of application traffic and are in a unique position to capture important information about application delivery. This data can be turned into actionable insight. Citrix ADM collects telemetry data from all the ADC instances across environments, and it collects it all centrally. Now, the amount of data captured is extensive and covers all layers, the network, the ADC, and the application itself. Now, of course, going through all this data manually is not really feasible. The data needs to be processed. The Citrix ADM analytics engine is, in my opinion, unparalleled in the industry in its ability to analyze the data and isolate important points that provide comprehensive information about the health and performance of your applications, your infrastructure, and the security of your business. By using many data analysis techniques, including machine learning, ADM can provide real, actionable insights in real time that allow you to make data-driven decisions about your application's infrastructure and essentially your business requirements. ADM presents this information in dashboards that are intuitive to use and enable you to quickly spot anomalies. The interactive nature of the dashboard allows you to drill down into these anomalies and investigate things further. This comprehensive analytics brings a deep understanding of your applications and delivery environments so that you can take action, whether it's to troubleshoot a problem or to investigate about where to invest. ADM will provide a rich information set to help guide your decision making. The Infrastructure Analytics Dashboard makes it easy to visualize your ADCs across your entire hybrid multi-cloud environment. You can group your infrastructure however you want, perhaps based on sites or ADC instance type, or version even. This makes it easier to manage things collectively. Citrix ADM introduced the concept of a health score to bring together lots of variable aspects that affect ADC infrastructure and its ability to deliver your applications effectively. This is carried through into infrastructure analytics. Each device is given a score based on its health, performance, and system issues. These are then color-coded so that it's very easy to identify problems and drill down for more detailed metrics in each individual ADC to aid remediation. ADM will also detect and post notifications about configuration issues, deviations from SSL policy, all in a single place. This will keep you ahead of issues in your infrastructure that might affect your application delivery and possibly indicate business failures. ADM will also monitor the health and usage of the applications themselves on an ongoing basis. A comprehensive dashboard provides easy visualization of application status across the whole estate. The size of the boxes indicate application usage, and the color provides a quick guide to application performance and health. Now, these can be applications of any type, legacy, web, or microservices-based, for example. They could be in any location, a data center or a cloud. ADM will automatically identify applications based on the V server, but it also allows you to define your own. And this creation of custom applications lets you holistically monitor applications that might span multiple environments. And with the overall view, you see the big picture of your applications, but you can also drill down into individual applications for more specific details. When you drill down into an application, you see more details and understand which of your applications or servers give errors, so you can investigate why. The display of key metrics such as app response time, error rates, server response time enable you to investigate where issues arise and where to start to look for them. Ruling out something as simple as a server issue can save you a lot of time when you need to troubleshoot a problem. Also, because application performance is monitored over time, you can see the trends and take decisions about where you might need to assign resources in the future. You can take this further and get a view of the end-to-end application response time broken into the component pieces, so it's easy to see where things are slow and where you might focus your efforts. ADM also lets you click down to analyze individual transactions and map out the details with respect to the client, the ADC, and the server. This provides invaluable input to troubleshooting. Now, protecting your application assets is vital, and you can't protect something when you don't know what's wrong. Citrix ADM, Application Security Dashboard, provides valuable insight into the vulnerability of your applications both collectively and individually. The overview shows you the threat index, which is a measure of the vulnerability of your applications as they currently stand based on the types and volumes of attacks against them. You can see the total number of violations as well as which ones are being blocked and which are not. You can see where attacks are coming from, as well as the trend over time. You can quickly see which of your applications are most at risk, so you know what protections to prioritize. And you can, of course, drill into any of the individual applications to get more specific details. Now, there's also a safety index, and that can be shown. And this is a measure of how well your ADC configuration is protecting your applications from external threats. It takes into consideration both the application firewall configuration as well as the overall ADC system configuration. This App Security Dashboard is a very powerful place to start monitoring application security and make decisions about how it can be improved across your entire infrastructure. You also want to know how well your applications are being received by your users and customers. With Web Insight, you can visualize your application status quickly and easily to see which are your most popular URLs based on requests or bandwidth. You can see the response times for each application and assess its performance, as well as see important SSL information about your applications easily. You can track the performance of individual servers from the server view and assess the number of hits each sees, the amount of content that's delivered based on bandwidth that each server is delivering, and the overall processing time for each server. And with the click of a button, you can switch views to look at things from the client perspective to get an idea of the requests, the network latency, and the render time for your applications. In this way, you get a good overview of the experience as the users access your applications. This data highlights where you might make optimizations in the future to improve the user experience and keep your users more engaged. Now, Insight is important to help you make plans, but analytics has another important role. It makes troubleshooting much faster and a lot easier. ADM lets different administrators see things from different perspectives, which means the right people with the right skills have access to the right information at the right time to identify issues quickly and remediate them rapidly. Because ADM cross-correlates all of the data between applications, infrastructure, and the network, so application ADC scores are automatically linked to issues that arise, and this speeds up analysis. The intuitive dashboards makes spotting anomalies easier, and their interactive nature means that it's really easy and simple to drill into items for more details to uncover root causes more quickly. The role-based access control built into ADM allows you to define exactly who can see and troubleshoot what applications or network issues. These users, as stakeholders in the application delivery, will have the right dashboard for their role and can take responsibility for their part of the issues. With everyone looking at the same data set, albeit from a different angle, this gets people involved straight away, the right people involved straight away. It reduces the blame game and ultimately leads to faster resolution. And role-based dashboards are an important aspect to troubleshooting. As I said, different stakeholders have different requirements in what they need to see and what they can do with it. An application owner is concerned with how well their application is performing and how well it's being received. A network's operation person might be more concerned with how the servers are running and when they might need to add more resources. So putting the right information in front of each stakeholder helps them focus on what they understand and therefore helps them to be able to spot issues more quickly. Similarly, different admin levels have different privileges and they can fix different issues. A junior IT ops person might have the rights to change the load balancing configuration when it's needed, but it might take someone higher up the chain to install a new SSL service certificate, for example. Making sure that the right people have the right levels of access can help things get fixed more quickly. Thirdly, role segregation is an important and prudent part of security. Applications may have different security clearances, for example, and compliance might dictate restricted visibility. Similarly, as I said, it's prudent to restrict access to unauthorized users, just simply, if nothing else, to prevent accidental changes creating problems for your application delivery. ADM provides all of this. Different views for different stakeholders to bring the right skills to issues. Role-based dashboards are fully configurable in ADM, so you can map responsibilities to the roles you already have defined in your organization today, whether that's by application, functionality, or based on infrastructure management. Typical dashboards might include IT operations, security, or application owners, for example. This flexibility will help protect your application delivery as well as speed up troubleshooting. Here are some of the examples of how ADM can make troubleshooting easier for your teams. The first example is when someone tells you my apps are running slowly. And frequently you are given precious little more information than that. ADM gives you a good place to start. You can check the ADC infrastructure in front of the offending application. And in this example, you can see immediately that there's an SSL capacity issue. Clicking on the vServer, it shows you that you've got a couple of apps that are a problem and that you need to add capacity. But once it's done, you can see that one is good, but the other application still has problems. And clicking on it shows that there are issues related to server performance and errors. And now that you've identified that issue, you can scroll down and ADM will highlight some of the suggested remediations. And it might be load balancing algorithm. It might mean that you need more server capacity, but it gives you a really good place to start looking. This next example is when an application is slow sometimes, and this is probably the worst thing in the world to troubleshoot, as you have to hope that you troubleshoot when the problem is present. The ADM dashboard shows in this example a lower than perfect score by the color, but actually things are probably not too bad. But by clicking on a different view, you get to see that, well, that application is running as an application score of 60. But that said, all of the other indicators appear okay. And clicking on the application to get more details shows potential issues related to incidents when the application response time has exceeded the defined threshold values, in this case 500 milliseconds. And this has happened about 150 times around 9 p.m. So with ADM's search facility, it's possible to search for servers that have these high or these long response times and then work with a server team to determine why. Now, the previous view also indicated there were server internal 5xx errors, which indicates that the server failed to fulfill an apparently valid request. And so you could search for server errors, servers with errors greater than 499 and find out which are the offending servers there. When you do that, you get the view and you get the actual IP address of the servers, their response time, and now you're in a position to know which servers you need to go and start to look at. ADM also includes service graphs as a big aid to helping with troubleshooting. They provide an end-to-end representation of your application. This example shows how a microservices application is decomposed into its constituents and how they interact with each other. Service graphs follow the same philosophy as other dashboards, i.e., the services are given a health score, they're then color-coded to make it easy to spot anomalies and errors. Services are sized depending on the number of connections they make with other services. The links themselves represent the communications and the transactions between the services and are similarly sized based on the number of transactions and color-coded based on the health of those transactions. And in this example, you can see that the service front-end hot drinks is highlighted in red because it has an issue. Hovering over it shows that it has a service score of 40, which alerts you to start troubleshooting in this area. Citrix Application Delivery Management is a big step forward in the arena of application management. More and more, the business will rely on applications and their delivery to survive, innovate, and compete. As such, there will be a big surge in the application delivery controllers deployed, because these provide the network services that optimize the delivery and ultimately the user experience. Proper management of these devices will become a critical part of the application lifecycle. Organizations that ensure they can automate the configuration, derive actionable insight, and improve their troubleshooting across their diverse environments will be more successful. And that is what ADM will help you do. ADM is available as a virtual appliance for deployment on premises, or perhaps more attractive, can be used as a cloud service from Citrix. So reach out to your local Citrix reps for more details. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Now, as we move into Q&A, I would like to remind our audience that if you have a question, please submit it in the Ask a Question area on your screen. Simply type your question into the text box and then hit Submit. We have a few great questions on the line. So our first question is, can I define a style book for load balancing, a style book for authentication, and others to bring them together and reuse them as sort of a pack?
Oh, yes, absolutely, Jeremy. Absolutely, you can. The composable nature of stylebooks is what makes it easy to create configurations for what are becoming increasingly complex applications that we see today.
Excellent, excellent. And here's another stylebook question. So how do stylebooks enable application migration?
Oh, that is a good question. Because stylebooks are application-centric, when you're creating them, you define various items as variables. So things like IP addresses, which would change between environments. And that would be something you'd want to put in separately for each environment that you're deploying into. The rest of the configuration, for example, your load balancing mechanisms, authentication, that might all stay the same. But in this way, you can fully deploy an application in a new environment and just apply the config that you had before. And ADM will work out what is going to be different, how to ask you for that information so that you are given the right input screen to input those variables, as we say, like IP addresses, and it will create a really simple GUI for you to do that, and then away you go.
Excellent, excellent. Switching gears a little bit, can you go over how the auto-scaling process works?
Sure. When you have an application deployed and it's front-ended by an ADC, you need to make sure that the application has enough servers to cope with the demand. Well, that's usually taken care of by the cloud provisioning systems that are already in place. But similarly, you need to make sure that you have adequate ADC resources to load balance and manage the traffic, to authenticate the users, or perhaps handle encryption. And ADM monitors the load on the ADCs, and when it exceeds defined parameters, it triggers the provisioning of new ADC VPX instances and deploys them. So once they're deployed, ADM will then license them and push the right configuration for that application to each new instance. Similarly, when the load drops below that threshold, the reverse happens. ADM will take the ADCs that it has provisioned out of service and free up that infrastructure for something else. And this way, there's always enough resources to handle the load, but not an oversubscription.
Oh, that's fantastic. Switching again, this is more about security. The SSL dashboard, is it possible to install a new certificate on an individual ADC from the SSL dashboard?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things that our customers love about it, that there's a single-click install certificate, and from there a new window opens up and guides you through that setup. So you can upload a certificate file, determine which instances you want to install that certificate on, name it, hit OK, and away you go.
Excellent. Here's another good one. How are application scores calculated?
That is a very good one. It is a complex algorithm, but it takes into account the performance of an application. There's a standard for monitoring application experience called AppDex, and it's the number of hits below a certain threshold and the number of times the response is more than a certain threshold. And it does some calculations with that. So it creates this application performance score, and then we subtract from there certain penalties that are based on the server health and the ADC instance itself, so that the surge queues or the NIC card drops and stuff like that. So there is it's not a complex, but there is more to it than we can just go through without having something in front of us. So for more information, I would encourage you to check some of the other presentations.
Wonderful. And I think we have time for one more. What did you say was the difference between the threat index and the safety index?
Yeah, sorry, maybe I didn't make that clear. So the threat index is how much threat you're under. So this is how vulnerable the applications are. So the ADC is seeing new attacks or violations coming into each application. It understands what the vulnerabilities are within the application and the number of different types of attack that are coming in, and of course, so their volume as well. So the more attacks that are coming in, then the more vulnerable the application is. The more different kinds of attacks, perhaps the more vulnerable it is. The safety index, that is how well you're protecting the application. So this takes into account, for example, the application firewall configuration. Is it set up to protect against SQL injection attacks in a SQL application when it's fronting a SQL application, for example, SQL-based application? It also looks at the safety of the ADC configuration itself. So have the password been reset on the ADC so that someone can't just come in and hack into it? So things like that. There are more things to it, but this, I think, gives you a high-level overview.
Well, that's wonderful. If we didn't get to your questions in this session, we will be most certainly answering those offline and sending them out with the transcript of the event. So thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the presentation. I would like to thank Jason Poole for a very informative presentation and also thank our audience for joining us. A quick reminder, you can check out and register for upcoming webinars and events by going to citrix.com/events. And you can also access some of the other on-demand episodes that Jason mentioned earlier.